You're listening to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we honor the bravery of the first responders and the families who stand behind them. Real people, real stories, real heroes. This is 8158.
Welcome back to 8158 Podcast Stories of Sacrifice. If you missed part one, make sure you go back and listen. You don't want to miss out because we shared Anthony's incredible journey from his childhood being raised by firefighters to the explosion that nearly took his life. Now, in part two, we dive deeper into the aftermath. With life-altering injuries, PTSD, and the weight of his experiences, Anthony faced a new battle, one for his mental health and his future. From addiction to struggles with finding his place to discovering a new purpose in storm chasing and on-scene photography, Anthony's story is one of resilience and recovery. Stay with us as we explore how he overcame the darkest times and found strength in unexpected places.
That passion, I haven't felt it in years. And I was like, I gotta get back in. Well, I decided I moved back down here to South Carolina. I was done with the freaking Mother Nature up there. I was
wacky weather.
Oh my God, yes, I was done with it. I never wanted to be in there again, which again kind of contradicts where I do now, but at the time I didn't want to do it. So I moved back and I sit there and try to get back on the department that I was on before I moved. Unfortunately, they were full with complete capacity, which it sucks.
Right.
But again, they can only have so many people on the roster. A lot of departments around here were already full on capacity. So I didn't have where I felt like I was needed, but it was an understanding, like I understand why I can't. There wasn't a negative to it. So the wife and I, I decided, I was like, no, I'm going to go do security. I'm going to start doing security work because I think I can help there. I can still be a first responder at places that needs help. I can be pretty tough if I need to be. Ask my kids. So I started doing security work, and I actually started off being night security at Augusta National Golf Course, which is the Masters. It was like a temporary job. Start off there, end up getting a full-time job working there. Loved it. Enjoyed being in security. I enjoyed it. I got to meet all kinds of people doing that, especially there at the Masters, especially during the Masters. Like, how many people can literally say they actually had an Arnold Palmer from Arnold Palmer?
Right.
Like, an actual homemade Arnold Palmer. I mean, it was, I felt, again, completed again, because I felt like I was contributing to society. I was there doing a job. I was there protecting people. If there was a medical emergency, I was there to help. So I felt complete again. But again, there was still a part of me. There was still that little part of me. I was like, God, I wish I could feel that heat. Like, I wish I could feel that pressure. Wish I could feel that adrenaline.
Yeah.
And the job that I was doing security with ended up transferring me down to Brunswick, Georgia, to work at Gulfstream Avionics. Doing security there for people that come in, bring their planes in. My job was to make sure nobody messed with them, because they would be like high value clients.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be a good many of famous people because of it. which was actually pretty cool. But I ended up on a department down there called Anderson Drive Volunteer Fire Department. Very small department. They had a tanker and an engine, and it was an old style Pierce engine. Like it was one of the old style ones. Like the back, where you sit in the back, was open cab back.
Yeah,
Old style.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and I loved it. That was my favorite engine. Was that one? Very small department. Like this department, and this goes back to the brotherhood. This is why I like the volunteer, and I don't not pay departments, because they do just as much hard work as volunteer. But in my experience, I've noticed people go from volunteer to paid, their mentality changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really liked that.
Right.
You know, because to me, it was never for the money. I'd never done it for the money. If I needed money, I can make money. I had a regular full paying job doing security. I had jobs. It was a passion. It was something that I felt like I needed to do. So I never really went to paid. I never really wanted to. I never had a drive to. But this department, very small, very tight-knit community, just like I grew up in. You know, so again, I felt home. You know, they took me in again, got dropped out on the highway in my underwear because I was a snorer at the station. And yeah, had to run back to the station to get, initiations. Initiation. Oh my God, the initiations were crazy. I've seen all kinds. I've had a couple crazy ones from mine. But the initiations were always fun. But we sat there, and like our department, we would have a house fire. And if you were the same size as me, we would share gear. Like you would go in and fight. Once your air run out, you come out to go into rehab. Mm-hmm. And now while they change your air pack out, we would change gears, and I would use your gear to go in.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Like it was that small department, but we had a job to do, and we done it any way we could. Which one thing I also learned on that department was I have never seen a more determined, hardworking fire crew as what Wayne County, Georgia Station 8 was.
Wow.
Because they were all prisoners.
So they're ex-convicts or inmates or ex-inmates.
They're no, not ex.
They're
actual inmates.
Oh, wow.
Okay. They have a department down there that they have a program that they can sign up for, be certified in firefighting, and respond. They have their own building they live in behind the walls, their own trucks to respond with, everything. But they're actual prisoners. And you're talking about some boys that will fight some fire?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Like, the first time I've ever seen them go, we were at a trailer fire, fully involved. Floor is already falling in. Nobody in trap, nothing like that. So it's just mainly fully involved. And my assistant chief, again, I'm packing up. I'm getting ready to pull the line to go and start putting the wet stuff on the hot stuff. And he stops me and goes, "Nuh-uh." He goes, "Watch this." I'm like, "Watch what?" I see this white van with red lights come flying in. And I'm like, that's an odd looking fire truck, you know. And then I see the truck come in behind them. And I'm like, what am I watching? It's just another department at Station 8 responding. And nobody told me who Station 8 was. These guys jump out in white prison uniforms. inmate written on the back and start packing up. And I'm looking like they're packing up faster than I've ever done.
Wow.
And talking about the certifications, you have to learn how to pack up. It went from, so it was used to be 2 minutes from the time that they go to the time you fully pack. It dropped down to a minute. I say 2 minutes. There's always a big discretion with that in the fire service because of how long it can take, and you can stumble, and it's hard. But you have a time limit to be packed up. These boys were like half the time of what we were doing, and literally was grabbing the line and running into this fully involved house to fight this fire.
Wow.
I watched one of their guys go through the floor, and the other guy, which was this huge 6'4", like 300-pound dude, reach down, grab him, and pull him up out the floor, pick him up, and he was right back in fighting it.
Oh wow.
And I'm just sitting there like holy shit, like this is awesome, you know. So every time we would get a call, we would always call them because, again, it wasn't their inmates, they're fellow firefighters. They're part of that brotherhood.
Exactly.
You know, it didn't matter our differences. It didn't matter what had you done and what trouble you got into. You're out here doing the same job as I'm doing. So we got a bond here.
Right.
And these guys, I loved working with them.
They would risk their lives to save your life if they had to.
Oh, they would. And I've seen them do it.
Yeah.
We had a guy set a house on fire one time, and I was inside doing a search, a primary search. It was me and a cop showed up first, and then Station 8 come in second. A lot of my guys on my department was at work, so I literally was the only one able to show up. And I was inside and realized that the guy actually set the house on fire and drew a gas line of gasoline around the house. So you could actually see it slowly making its way. And I didn't catch it at first, but one of the guys from Station 8 did, and he come running in with no air pack, and he grabbed me and pulled me up and pointed, and I saw it, and we hauled butt. I wouldn't have saw it before it got to me, but he did. Right. You know,
like you said, that program is probably a really awesome thing. In Montana, they do have a fire crew that goes out of the prison and they assist the wildlands firefighting. And in fact, a buddy of mine, he was in prison, but he wasn't a part of that fire crew, but he became a firefighter after he got out.
Yeah.
But those guys were so dedicated that they waited and they were willing to do whatever it took.
Yeah. And that's and again, and I'm not, again, I go back, I don't not pay firefighters, but I've literally seen inmate firefighters do a harder and better job than actual pay.
Right.
And it's great to see that. And what I loved about that program was these guys can come out of prison when they get released with these certifications and get a career doing it.
Right.
And there was departments in Georgia that would hire these guys. They didn't care about the criminal record. They cared about the certification and the dedication, and they hired them. So they were coming out from, that dark path of their road to a good path and had a life.
Yeah,
I think every single state needs to have a program like that.
I think they should too. I think it's an awesome thing for people, especially, like I interviewed a guy who was in corrections, and he put things in perspective, and he said that not all the inmates are bad. There's some guys that should be there, but there are a lot of them that just make mistakes, and they want to atone for those mistakes, and they just want to have a better life, and they care about people. They truly do. And the guys that go out there, like in Montana, that do the wildlands firefighting, they don't do it for the, you know, just for the hell of it. They do it because they know it is very important. It is a very important job. It's an honorable job, and they want to get out there and they want to save lives. They want to save properties, you know, and
Yeah.
they don't look for nothing else. They don't
Yeah.
look
And
for publicity or anything like that. They just do it because they care, and that's their passion.
that's what these guys was. They did it for the passion. They didn't do it because they can get out of the bars and get some fresh air.
Mhm.
They done it because they was passionate about doing it. They wanted to help. They just unfortunately had some misfortune in their life. They were paying for it and they wanted to do better.
Right.
So again, I think a lot of states need to have it. It's a wonderful program, but
I agree.
with that department, again, working with those guys, they were, they was true to the brotherhood. And again, it was something that I was always true to.
Right.
And now, hold on, let me be politically correct because I don't want flack. The brotherhood and sisterhood.
Brother sisterhood, yeah.
Yes. Let me go ahead and put that out there.
We do have ladies that are pretty tough that are out there doing the same thing now.
One of my good friends, she started off as like I did with just first certification, and she ended up being an instructor. So I've seen, like, in fact, just the other day, I was out on a call doing photography on a collapse, and there was a lady firefighter that was a confined space entry helping the guy get out. So trust me, there's some ladies out there that are a lot stronger than some of the guys I've seen. So yeah, but they took, not only did they take me in, they took my family in. And to me, that was big.
Right.
Because you accepted my family too. And like, I'm laughing about it. I'm afraid she will probably yell at me if she's home because it ain't funny. But our dog, my search and rescue dog at the time, was outside. And he actually wrapped up her legs and she fell.
Oh, no.
And she was tangled up in his runner. The neighbor called 911. We were at a meeting, heard the call go out. The entire fire department from our station and Jessup City emptied out and ended up at my house just to help her get untangled.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Like that, you see something like that, you're like, man, like you feel loved. You really feel like that compassion and that caring for the family. And we would hang out with a lot of them outside of the fire department.
Right.
We'd go hang out, go eat. It was just a tight family. And unfortunately, that was the last department I was on where ultimately I had to medically retire. And this is where we get into one of, if not the hardest call I have ever had to deal with.
Okay.
So I do apologize ahead of time if I do tear up.
No, it's okay.
Or if I have to break because it is hard.
You're good, brother.
But
just let it out, man.
In 2005, down there in Wayne County, it was a summer day. Again, if anybody knows anything about South Georgia, it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
It's hot and it's dry.
Humid, dry.
Mm-hmm. So my wife and my kids were at church for vacation Bible school. I was at home. I was just chilling at the house. It was just a summer day. I was off. And the pager went off. Well, at first, get my cigar ready. At first, the power pager went off, and then Jessup City went off, and then the police got paged out, EMS was paged out, DNR got paged out, like literally the entire county got paged out.
Oh my gosh.
And usually when that happens, it's again a major situation, like something major just happened. So I'm already on my porch. I'm waiting to hear where it's at, so I know if I need to go to the station or do I need to go to scene, because I always carried my fire gear with me, because sometimes I wouldn't make the station or make the truck in time, because I'd never really hauled 120 down the road. Because one thing I was also taught as a little kid was, don't kill yourself, get to the call. It's going to be there when you get there.
Right.
So there's no point of you trying to kill yourself to get there.
Or somebody else.
Exactly. So I always get my gear with me, so that way I can go to the scene if I needed to. So I'm sitting there waiting. And around this time, they used to use 10 codes. And I know you know what 10 codes are. I know a lot of people do. But people that don't know what 10 codes is, it's a code that a lot of police, fire, EMS uses that tells you the situation that's going on instead of telling you what it is.
Right.
Like for fire, ours mainly are like 1070, which is fire, 1050, car wreck, stuff like that. That's mainly the ones we usually hear back in the day. And then they would tell you if it was a car fire, house fire, brush fire, or whatever's on fire, or entrapments, whatever. But and again, with this call, and I'm going to touch on the mental health that I was at the time, because I think this would help a lot of people understand that you got to think from pretty much 2001 to 2015. I've already been on numerous of calls, a lot of death, a lot of destruction, almost lost my life. I have brought life into this world. I have saved lives. I've had to sit there and tell family members that people hasn't made it. I have dealt with from infants to a 98-year-old.
Right.
I have experienced all this. So I'm already, I'm already still fighting a lot of mental health issues, not only with the fire service, but also personal. I know I was already diagnosed with PTSD from childhood. I was already diagnosed with depression, high anxiety, and most of that was from the childhood. But a lot of people didn't realize I was hiding it from the fire service.
Okay.
Because I was afraid that if people knew that I was getting PTSD and survivor guilt and was having those issues mentally outside of the department because of the calls I was going on, I would be kicked out.
Okay.
And I didn't want that. Because again, I was where I needed to be. So I had to put it in my mind that it's part of life. This is what you signed up for. You're going to deal with this. You're going to have to deal with this. And, like I said, in 2001, I had my son pass away.
Right.
I've had to tell parents about their kids. I've listened to kids, unfortunately pass away. So again, to me, in my heart, kids are really hard ones for me. They were always hard ones for me.
Right.
But near the summer of 2015, the call goes out. The problem was they were in the middle of phasing out the 10 codes. And again, I don't blame dispatch. I don't blame nobody. It's just a situation that happened. Things happen. Things get mixed up.
Right.
Problems. But because they were phasing it out 10 codes with the fire department, but not with like police, DNR, EMS, all that, they used the 10 code down there, which was 1042. And I remember that code because it was the only one that never clicked in my brain. And I knew the 10 codes. I knew all of them. Even for the police, I knew what they were.
Yeah.
You know, if there was a stabbing, I knew I'm going to a stabbing or a shooting or whatever. I knew. And they used that 10 code. By this time, I'm in my car and I'm sitting. Now, the address they gave me literally was right across the road from where I was sitting. But they gave that 10 code. And I did not know what it was. I didn't know if somebody was suicidal. I didn't know if there was a shooting, a stabbing, somebody being combative. I didn't know. I'm not law enforcement. You know, there's guys that can handle that and knows how to deal with that. That's their job. I am not law enforcement, and I'll never be law enforcement because, again, like dispatch, it's something I couldn't never do.
Right.
I just, I'll fight the hot stuff with the wet stuff, not with bullets.
Right.
You know, but so I sat there for about 3 minutes. It was probably about 35 minutes. And the chief of my department comes on and he goes, "What is 1042 dispatch? Remember, firefighters have phased out 10 codes." And she come back over, possible drowning. And, huh?
That was valuable time.
Yes, viable time. So when she said that, at that point, I was on. I hit the gas and I took off. Again, I was first on scene because it was literally like right around the corner from where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
I get on scene and I had one officer coming in behind me, and we come into the driveway and there's 3 separate ponds. And we run down and the cop yelled, he goes, "Which pond?" Now, again, I don't know who's in the pond. I don't know who my victim is. I don't know nothing like this yet. All I know is there's a possible drowning. Somebody's in the water. And all. Then again, I'm first on scene. And the neighbor started yelling, that pond, pointing at the pond that was behind the trailer.
Okay.
And the grandmother was upstairs with the older grandchild and was saying they fell into that pond. And I looked and I said, "They?" And she goes, "Yes, my brother and sister."
Jeez.
And at this point, now I realize not only do I have one victim, I have 2 and kids. Again, don't know age. This is information that's coming to me as it's coming. I didn't care. I jumped straight in. I stripped off my radio, shoes. I kept my shirt and shorts on, but everything that needed to come out that possibly could have weighed me down came off. I'm in. I'm underwater. I'm searching. It's just murky, just dirty, water. And as I'm underwater and I come up for air, there are a couple more people are starting to show up. A couple of guys from my department are starting to show up. They're asking me, "Where have you searched at?" I've already pointed on this side. Go to this other side because we don't know if they floated out. We don't know. No, we just know they're in there. I go back under, and as I go under, I find the 5-year-old girl, and her ankle was actually up under a rock.
God.
the image of coming from a murky where you can't hardly see to send this itty bitty little hand in your face sears into your brain and will never go away. So I grab her, I get her out, I get her to shore. By this time, one of my fellow firefighters grabs her and starts CPR on the bank. And they start working on her. We have guys already in the water. They're literally all the way out in the middle of the pond. They're diving down, everything. What I noticed was the bank dropped down about that far onto this like sandbar. And then from the sandbar, it dropped about 10 feet. So I followed the sandbar and I dove down right at the edge of the sandbar. Get down, can't feel nothing. I come back up for air. I'm frantic at this time because I know they've got to. There's one more. There's yelling. There's one more. And at this point, we don't realize he's 3. It's a really small child. We got to find him. We got to get him. We're frantic at this point. And again, I hate to use humor at this point, but I always tell my family, never freak out unless you see me freak out. If I start freaking out, freak out. So I'm freaking out. Like I'm starting to hyperventilate. My anxiety's getting up because mentally I know they're there. I know what needs to be done, but I'm also fighting mentally like, you should have fucking, excuse my language, you should have known this code. You know this code. This is something you've trained for all your life. You should have been there faster. And this is still in the middle of searching for the second one. So I come up for air and I'm standing there and I'm using my feet because we done stirred up the sediment and all in the pond. And I'm using my feet to try to feel where the edge is, because that's what I'm trying to do, is go off the edge to get down to where potentially they fell off. And I'm using my left leg on the edge and my other leg off the edge. So I'm kind of like, my feet are like this. And I'm kind of hopping like that. And as I stepped down, I felt, at first I thought it was like mud. It was really soft, kind of small. It didn't feel like a rock. It wasn't hard enough for a rock. But it just didn't feel right. So I kind of used my toes and kind of felt like what I was feeling, because I didn't want to dive down on something that wasn't there. And it ended up being the little boy's knee, which again was a major blow. Because now I just stepped on this kid. Didn't mean to, but now I just stepped on him. So I dived down. I come back up. And at this time, we've already got EMS. We've got DNR. Everybody's on scene. The parents are already come from their job. They're already on the bank. They've got the sister already in the ambulance working on her, but they got the parents on the bank. And I come out the water pretty much like this, cuddling his head right above water. And I mean, he was blue. I knew he had a lot of water in him. And I looked at my chief, and I didn't have to say nothing. And he looked at me, and he kind of nodded. And I nodded at him. And he said, hold on a minute. And he told the family, he goes, hey, I need y'all to move back up the hill. And again, the family knew why. As soon as he said that, they wanted to be down there. Unfortunately, law enforcement had to step in to fight with the family to keep them from. Like, it became this huge chaotic scene between law enforcement, fight with the family, wanting to see their child. We're trying to be polite enough not to let them see their child like that, because, you know, as parents, we would hate to see our kids like that. I have personally seen my child like that. It's something you'd never want to see. So once they got them up, my chief comes into the water, and I pass him along to him. My chief grabs him, runs up the hill, gets to the ambulance. Now they got them both in the ambulance working on them. By this time, I done got out the water. I'm kind of sitting on the bank, and I was just sitting there looking at the water. And the thoughts in my head was just like, what'd you do wrong? Like, what training did you not use? Like, your swiftwater rescue, you've saved countless of people. You've brought in people literally from death. Like all my calls that I've ever experienced in my life really flooded back to me. And I was just pondering, like, what did I do wrong? Like I had to have done something wrong. Like, why didn't I know that 10 code? Why was it just that one 10 code? That one 10 code. Why didn't it sear my brain to let me know, hey, that's a drowning, get there now? Why did I sit there for 5 minutes? I mean, I could have just rode down the road and act like a normal civilian just to look to see if maybe it was a fight, but I didn't. And I sat there for about 5 minutes. I heard the ambulance leave with the kids to go to the hospital. Again, at this time, I had no clue if they brought them back, if they resuscitated them, if they called them. I don't know. You know, I'm just sitting there. And my fellow firefighter, the one that I handed off to first, he come down and he sat down beside me, and he's like, "You all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He goes, "Then why are you just sitting here?" I said, "I'm trying to dry off." And I'm lying.
Of course.
You know, again, I'm trying to be tough. I'm trying to be tough. I don't want them to see that side of me. And even to this day, my kids, it's hard for me to show a compassionate side of me because I was always drilled not to have that. I was always drilled, you're tough. You're a firefighter. You can handle the heat. You can handle the devastation and the chaos. And
the stigma.
So, yeah, it's a stigma. It's exactly, it's a stigma that you don't get upset. You know this is part of life. But then I started questioning, like, if it's part of life, why the hell the kids? Like, it really made me start pondering this. And all this is happening while we're sitting there. We having to wait on the investigator to get there because of the fact that, you know, we were in the scene area. Unfortunately, I was the one that found both of them, so I'm going to have to show the investigator the general area where I found them, how I found them, what I saw. So we're having to stay on scene because of the investigation of it. So the guy, which I call him my partner, he's sitting there and he goes, "Well, walk up the hill with me. But you look like you need a cigarette." Like, I do. He goes, "Well, I got you a towel up here. Come on." All right. So I grabbed my radio and I grabbed my shoes. I didn't put nothing on. I kind of moseyed up to the car, which was my car. And we were leaning on my car and smoking a cigarette, kind of just not talking. It was one of those kind of moments that he knew what I was feeling. I knew what he was feeling. And it was like this mutual agreement of, we're just going to stand here and kind of just give each other that company, that we know we got somebody beside us through this. And so, and of course, the investigator comes, talk to us, and I'm fighting. I'm not even going to lie. I was fighting so hard in my tears. I was fighting. I was so mentally broke. that all I was thinking was, I got to get to my kids. I need to check on my kids. Like, I need to know if they're okay. Now, I knew they were okay. They were my wife. They were at the church. They were at Vacation Bible School. But I needed to hold them. I needed to, I needed to feel my kids to me.
Right.
Because I literally just watched this family lose 2 of the 3 of theirs. And again, that survivor guilt of what the hell that I didn't do right. What was it that I didn't do right? What changed the outcome? So after they done an interview, I got in my car and I started driving to the house. I'm covered in mud. I'm covered in grass and seaweed, and I'm drenched, dirty. And I started driving towards our house, and I passed the house. And I drove all the way to the church. I walked through the church front door. I'm pretty sure God is going to kick me in the butt for this one. But as I walked in, the pastor, he looked at me, and he kind of gave me this look because, again, the way I look. I'm covered in mud and dripping wet everywhere. I just been in this pond, and
Right.
And I'm like, where is the kids for VBS? He kind of looked, he goes, do you have kids here? It was almost like he didn't know that I had kids here. It was like I was some stranger trying to find some kids.
Right.
And I get the way I look, but, at the time I was not in the mood to have that kind of conversation. And I looked at him. I said, my wife volunteers here. So we go to church here. My kids are here in VBS. Where are they at now? I said, this is an emergency. Where are they at? Like, I was getting, like, routed up. And, like, I literally have a tattoo on my back that says beast because of my PTSD. I call it my beast. He's getting routed up. Like, I am, look, I'm about to fight this pastor if he don't get me to my kids.
Right.
Get down the hallway. He gets to my wife first to check with her to make sure it's okay for me to see the kids. And now I can look back on it and go, okay, he was doing the right thing. But at the time, I didn't give a crap. I had an agenda. I had a plan. And I was sticking to my plan, and nobody was going to stop me. My wife comes out, and as soon as I saw her, I broke. Like, I broke. Because when I saw her and she saw me, she goes, what's wrong? And I hugged her. And I started crying. What's wrong? I said, where's the kids? She's like, what is wrong? Talk to me. What is wrong? I said, just where's the kids? Where's the kids? Where's the kids? And she's like, just come on. She goes, you're getting the floor wet. I don't give a damn about this floor. I don't care about this floor. I want to see my kids. At my time, my kids, we just had, which now he's 10, but we just had him, our baby. And, I want to see my kids. I didn't care what was going on. So she got him out in the hallway, and all I could do was hug him and tell him, I love you. I love you. I love y'all. I love you. And I'm hugging her, and, I'm completely distraught. I'm completely lost. And she finally gets me outside. And of course, I know I can always go back to cigarettes. It's a nasty habit to kill. But she gets me outside. I start smoking there, and she goes, what happened? And I explained to her what happened. And she's like, oh my God. She goes, what do you need? I was like, I don't know what I need. I don't I don't know if I need to look up my certifications. I don't know what I need to do. I feel like I need to go hug that family's father and talk to him, but I know I can't. Like, I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I just needed to see our kids and tell them and hug them. Because once again, and again, by this time, and a lot of my conversation, I don't talk about faith a lot because it's always a touchy subject.
Yeah.
But this just kind of gives you an idea of people that goes through situations like I've been through. Is you question it. You question why those kids, why? They always say everything has a plan. Well, what's the plan? Help me understand what the hell the plan was for these kids to be having a wonderful day on this nice sunny day in their own personal pond, and now they're gone. You start questioning everything about everything you learned.
Right.
Everything you were taught, you start questioning. So I finally get back home. My wife, I told her, she was like, do you want us to come home? We'll gladly come home. You know, whatever you want. Just tell me when you want. You know, she's trying to do her best to calm me down. But no, I need to just go home and change. I go home, and I was sitting there, and I heard a knock on the door, and it was the chaplain, which is also my captain. Which, another funny story, is also was the captain of Station 8, which was the prisoners.
Right.
Which he always loved to get on your butt if you never had your helmet on. If you ever came on his scene without a helmet, he would throw something at you and yell, where's your helmet? So he was one of those old school tough guys, like old school firefighters. But he was our chaplain, and he showed up and walked outside. I sat down on the porch with him, and he goes, you wasn't at D-grass. And he goes, you know that's protocol. Like, I know. So I know it's protocol. He said, so you and I are going to have a degrass right now. And he goes, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not okay. It was the first time in my entire career that I have ever told any firefighter, any department, that I was not okay. Out of everything that I've seen in my life and experienced, the tragedy, the everything, I never told anybody that I was okay. I always told them I was okay. Always. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. This was the first time. And he goes, I figured. He goes, I could tell. He said, that one was a hard one for you. I said, yeah, it was. And I mean, they knew my past. They knew what happened with my son. They knew my career over the years and everything that I've experienced. So they got it. They understood. And I got to give it to them that they understood. And again, once again, I got put on a week leave to try to take time away from any calls, just to give my time to, degrass, try to come to everything. And I was sitting there and I just couldn't come to terms with it. Like, all the calls I've been on, I've always eventually come to terms with. This one I just couldn't come to terms with.
The hard one.
Well, I truly believe it was my fault. I truly believe that if I didn't sit there for those 3 minutes, I could have probably got there quick enough. If I just remembered that code, I would have got there fast enough. This is what I'm going through.
That's the survivor guilt.
Yeah. It is, and it's real. And I know a lot of firefighters. It's hard for people to come out and say, "Yes, I deal with survivor guilt. I deal with PTSD from what I deal with it. I deal with this." It's hard. You're not taught to do that. But after a week was over with, I went back, started going back, but the drive that I had, that passion, that adrenaline, that rush that I got from doing it. And keep in mind, I was running some crazy calls. Like we were running a brush fire that was running with wind, and it was just me and the pump op. And I'm running through the woods like a chicken with a head cut off, trying to stop this fire. Like,
Right.
there was no structures in danger because we stopped the head of the fire, but still running through like a chicken with my head cut off. But the passion kind of went away because I just couldn't fathom what I saw. The image of that hand, looking that little kid's eyes. And even though he was passed, it was almost like you could see the fear, like you see that last moment fear he had.
Right.
And sitting there and it was just seconds. I was probably maybe 30 seconds holding him until they got the family up. That's it. It wasn't like it was 5-10 minutes. It literally was just seconds. But in those seconds, it's like I felt that pain. I felt his loss. I felt the fear. And it was like, this 3-year-old went through this for no reason. So I lost the drive. I lost the passion behind it. And unfortunately, the fire department kind of noticed, my mentality started changing. I really wasn't compassionate like I was. I really wasn't pursuing the trainings like I was doing. Like I said, I was always at the fire department this time. Only went if they really needed somebody. I really didn't, because I was just, it wasn't the fear of going to the call. It was the fear of me being gone and something happened to my kids and I'm not there.
So you became more passive.
I became a lot more passive than aggressive. All my life, I was aggressive with it. I was always aggressive with it. And I became more passive. And having to make that change from being aggressive to passive is a hard change. But again, I knew it had to be done. I couldn't risk my fellow firefighters in a structure fire if my aggression towards fighting that fire is not there. And I just couldn't do it. So I mainly went to like pump op, auxiliary, what they call mop up, which is essentially just going in after the fire's out, putting hot spots out. That's what I end up doing. Because that intense part would trigger me, and it started triggering me into past situations.
Right.
Like I went into a house fire one time, and all I could picture was the house fire of the family of 5. And I could hear them screaming and think somebody was screaming in this house. And it was just an abandoned house.
It was just kind of like a trigger for you.
Yes. And so it started getting really, really extremely bad with the PTSD, and the depression really started kicking in to where I didn't know where I wanted to go with it. I kind of finished out my career with Brunswick Security down at Gulfstream. The contract ran out with that. So we were kind of in the middle of what we're going to do. Are we going to stay in South Georgia, or are we going to move back up here to South Carolina? What? And we decided we were going to move back up here. We were going to get a house built. We're going to move back up here where all our family and all is, back to our original roots.
Right.
And I went to the fire department. And I told them, hey, we are moving, October of 2015. It's been a pleasure to be on the department with y'all. I thoroughly enjoyed, it was that sentimental kind of putting in my notice of everything.
Right.
And that was on a Tuesday night meeting. Well, that Wednesday, I got home from work. And of course, the family's already starting to pack. The U-Haul's already there. We're getting ready to start packing. And the entire fire department shows up. And I'm thinking they're showing up to help us pack. And then the chief shows up, which is very rare to see the chief show up for no reason.
Right.
He was also chief of Jessup City. He was a paved department with them, so he was very busy. And he showed up. And he gets out, and he has my fire helmet, my flash hood, my gloves, and my boots. And on the fire helmet, you have your unit number.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have your tag number.
Right.
They always give you a tag number, so whenever you go into a structure fire, you always give, I see your tag. They know where you at, what you're doing, as accountability. It's an accountability tag. And he has all that off the helmet. And I'm like, are they really just fisting to kick me off the department? Like, I thought it was some type of, like I'd done something. Like, I immediately was like, I done something wrong. What the hell?
Right.
He hands me the helmet, the gloves, everything like that. He hands me my accountability tag, and he looks at the number, which my number was 1744 down there. And he goes, we are going to retire your number.
Wow.
To a firefighter, that's about the biggest honor you can get if they retire your number. Most of the time, firefighters get their numbers retired due to line of duty death.
Wow.
And I had mine retired, and I didn't. They understood that the trauma from what I experienced really got me. It really just hurt me bad. So they done everything they could to make me feel proud of the work that I accomplished. So they gave me that. Again, heartfelt. I'm in tears. I don't know what to say. I've never had a department really have that kind of passion. Sucked that I was leaving it, but had to do something.
Mm-hmm.
We moved back, and by this time, I was going back to the doctor for physical therapy because I was having issues with my back, my hips, my shoulders. My body started kind of shutting down on me from all my injuries over the years. And my doctor looked at me. He goes, I'm going to have to retire you. I said, what do you mean? And at this time, I was doing security with a Coca-Cola company up here in Augusta, Georgia. Okay. And again, I love doing security. I loved that job. Like, I enjoyed that job. He goes, I'm going to have to retire you fully. I'm going to have to put you on medical retirement. He goes, you'll never be able to do security again, and you'll never be a firefighter again. And I looked at him, I said, you're taking my life away from me, right? He goes, it's either I take it or you lose it. He says, you've got to have major surgery on your back. And in fact, I ended up getting 2 plates and 8 pins put in my back. I'm still waiting on the surgery for the hip. He really don't want to do it because he still says I'm too young. I say we need to do it now, but that's just my doctor being my doctor. But I had surgery on the left ear. They had to go in, take bone fragments out, reconstruct the entire left ear. I have no hearing in the left ear. I'm partially deaf in the right. Last check was 70% deaf. My hip, the ball joint in it, when it fractured, your hip joint kind of sits into it. It broke. So now it actually sits like that. So everything's flat.
So it just kind of back and forth.
That's all it does. It does that. And sometimes it actually will slip out sometimes.
There's no socket there.
No. And it's just because over the years from it being broke and everything, it just kind of over time wore away. When he told me that I had to retire, and this is talking about completely retirement, no more income, no more support in my family, no more passion, no more doing what I loved, none of that. I broke again. It killed me again, and I went back into a deep depression again. Because once again, what I felt that I was put on this earth to do, I can't do no more. So, but I do have to give it to my family. They're the ones that keeps me going. They're the one that keeps me alive. Because they give me a reason to push. They give me the reason to stay alive and still be out there helping people. And even like now, my 18-year-old son, he'll stop in a heartbeat and help somebody. My wife will too. My youngest will get out there and help direct traffic if they need to, just to help somebody. My son one time stopped, a car hit a tree. He stopped, helped her. After the fire department got there, they told him thank you. He left. Not even a mile down the road from the house, rolled his car.
Oh my gosh.
And I responded to it. And that's a hard one to go to when it's your own kid.
Yeah.
That's a call I never wanted to go to when I ended up going to that one. But the fire department knew him. They were there. They helped him. He was fine. But that's, I was trying to find something that gave me purpose more than just my kids.
Yeah.
Because as a father, and this ain't even just as firefighting, as a father, not able to support your family, seeing my wife work as hard as she does, and there's nothing I can do, it's tough. It's hard.
So this kind of goes into what you're doing now. Let's go into that. What exactly do you do now for a living?
So
I think it's really important to let everybody know exactly what you do.
So now I want to put it out there before I go into my social media and the stuff I do. The biggest thing I want a lot of people to take away from my story is it doesn't matter how long you've been into the fire service. Don't be afraid to go for help. Go get help. Don't let it eat at you because it will tear you apart. It will break you down.
It'll eat you up inside.
It will eat you away, and you will end up losing a lot more than just your mentality. You could possibly lose your family. You could lose your life. You could lose a lot. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I myself now have been in therapy for 4 years, and I love it. My therapist has helped me. My peer support has helped me. I go twice a week. I go through my therapy about everything, and it's helped me grow better. To the point now, I started doing, I was trying to find something that got me into helping again. I knew I couldn't do firefighting or first responder, nothing like that. Doctor told me that's a no-go. So I started looking into what can I do that still helps my community, still gives me the adrenaline rush. Started doing storm spotting, which again, catch 22, got hit by one of the biggest ones, and now I go out and chase them. My son also got into that with me too. And in fact, he's my partner during spring season.
Okay.
But again, it goes back to there's part of that firefighter in me that's still missing. So I took my photography that I've done for nature photography, and I go out and I document fire calls, major fire calls, some minor, some major. I go out and I document these volunteer stations, these paid stations, these guys, these girls that goes out there and does this hard work and pretty much tell their story, show the world what they go through, what they have to deal with, the tools they have to use. Like I said, just a few days ago, we had a pool house collapse. Guy in trap. Took him 90 minutes to get him out. We had people from Augusta, Georgia. We had SRS. We had all kinds of rescue teams there from all over the county there. And this guy lived because of the hard work and the dedication. And these guys and their training and the tools they use saved this man's life. I go and document these volunteer firefighters that in 3 a.m. will leave their family, jump on a truck, and go run into a burning house. I documented a call last week where unfortunately somebody passed away. And I didn't show the person that passed away. I showed the grief that was on the firefighters.
Right.
Because I wanted people to see the look, that despair that firefighters deal with on a daily basis that they have to deal with. Yes,
they have to live with.
We chose this job. We chose it. It's what we chose to do. We understand the risk behind it, but we're still human.
Right.
We're still human, and so
that sacrifice, and you still live with that trauma.
Yeah, you're still going to remember that at the end of the day.
Right.
Especially if you try to help and there's nothing you can do. That's hard. It was a joyful day when they saved the guy up under that building, but not all calls are like that.
Yeah.
So not only do I document the great calls, but I also document the dark ones too. But I do not glorify the death. I always, if there's a house fire, I put on there to contact the local Salvation Army. So that way, if anybody wants to help the families that are affected, everything again I do is volunteer. I do not get paid for what I do, and I don't rightly care if I'm paid for it or not. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I want to show everybody what happened.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you if somebody passed away or not passed away. They're not showing these hardworking men and women that is on their hands and knees digging through rubble, using airbags to lift up thousands of pounds of stuff to pull a stranger out, or running into a burning building because somebody's trapped, not caring if they're going to get burned, not caring if it entraps them in there. Their job is to get that person out. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. But they still will be there the next day that tone drops with no hesitation.
Yeah.
And I started doing that, which has really helped my mentality, because now I feel complete again doing it, because I'm around the brother and sisterhood. I'm
Mhm.
around guys that know me. I document some of the guys that raised me up now. So I go to calls with them and I talk to them while I'm taking photos of it. And they understand what I do. In fact, my old assistant chief, which is now the chief of the city of North Augusta, I told him what I was doing. He was like, make sure you get you a vest. So I actually made me a firefighter media vest.
Media vest.
Yep. And that's what he told me. He goes, as long as you got you a vest, that's all you need. I'm like, okay. So, that's why I do it. So, yeah, it's been a long road. It's still a long road. But, I've always believed that if people understood what firefighters go through, what first responders go through, and I know first responder is a big page, and even with police, they go through it. EMS goes through it. Dispatch goes through it. Firefighters, military,
Mhm.
but dealing with fire, and that's mainly all you've dealt with your entire life. It's an experience.
It's
You know,
definitely.
it really is. It really opens your eyes to how vulnerable everything is, to the simplest thing, like a piece of paper, literally something this minuscule can completely wipe out an entire town.
Yeah.
And when you think about that and you learn how that happens and what you can do to stop that, it really opens your eyes to a lot. And when I started seeing the news document these brush fires and these house fires, and all they're talking about is, oh, 3 kids died. Oh, some animals got killed, or these acres burned. Well, what about the guys and girls that put their life on the line to try to stop that?
Right. They put themselves out there.
That put them out there. They're not asking you to, put their life out there to show them, but somebody needs to.
Right.
And I believe who else but someone like myself that has experienced it myself, has
Exactly.
been there, understands.
It
I know
seems like
what tools you're
a good job.
using. I know what tools you're using. I know what that tool was for. I know, you know, where I can go and where I can't go and who to talk to and, how things act. And so I'm able to really document everything and get it out there for everybody to see. And I just hope that my story, like I told my, I talked to my therapist yesterday about it because
Mhm.
again, like I said, my anxiety sometimes like to kick up on me
Mhm.
because I don't really, again, it fights the whole, you don't talk about it because you're this firefighter tough guy kind of thing. But I'm like, I don't know what to say. She goes, you have an amazing story. She's like, and
Mhm.
you always wanted to put your story out there to help
Right.
somebody. She goes, and she told me, and she reminded me, and this is what I always said was, if my story can help one person, one firefighter or first responder that is fighting PTSD, that's fighting depression, that's fighting, survivor guilt. If I can show them that getting help will actually benefit you better than hiding it, and I get one person to do that, I succeeded. I helped somebody.
Excellent.
So that's the reason why I wanted it to be the way it was because I want people to get that help. I don't want the stigma to still be out there because unfortunately I have seen and heard first responders committing suicide
Yeah.
because
It's
they
a
feel
big
like, yeah, because they feel like nobody's going to understand them.
right.
Nobody's going to get what they're going through. There's people out there that gets it. So,
Yeah, there's people out that do they we do get it, and I mean, I'm not a first responder myself, but I've heard and seen enough, and we do care. We understand to a certain extent, especially from the stories that we've heard, and everything that you've gone through and everything that you've done is just phenomenal. And I just can't believe the drive that you have. It's so inspiring, and it should inspire more first responders to have that
I
kind of
hope it
drive.
does.
And I'm
And I
sure
mean,
it
even
will.
if there's some young, listeners out there that's like, well, I would like to do that, but I don't know. I always tell somebody, and I even had a friend one time that wanted to be a firefighter, and I always tell them one time, I said, always keep in mind that if you go into this field, there are things you're going to see. Do not let it eat you away. If you feel like you need to talk about it, talk about it. Do not hold it in because it's going to make it worse. Get it out. When you have degrass, tell them how you feel. Don't say I'm okay. Tell them, hey, that would hurt.
Right.
I felt like we could have done more. I feel like I could have done more. And I probably, if I would have told some guys back in the day that, I'm pretty sure somebody probably would have helped me.
Right. When it becomes a detriment to your mental health, then you either seek help or you step back.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that was what I ended up doing because unfortunately I went to my primary care, and after he told me I had to retire and I broke down there, he was like, here, I'm going to call the mental health place. I want you to go there and talk to somebody, and I'm going to call and make sure you're there. I'm like,
Right.
all right, I'll go. And I drove myself there and talked to somebody there, and they got me with the right people and my right therapist, and been in it for 4 years now, doing a lot better. And now I take my experience and document what these guys and women go through and deal with.
Well, we definitely appreciate you coming on here and sharing that experience with you. And it's been an honor for us to hear that experience and to share that experience with other people. And especially for me, it's been an honor to have a drink with you.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
I appreciate the honor's mine. I appreciate you letting me come on and tell my story, and hopefully it will help others.
my heart goes out to you, man. And you've been through a lot, and you still got your head in the game, and you're still doing things to advocate for first responders. And we love that. We have to do more of that. We have to advocate for our first responders, and
Oh yeah.
we just definitely appreciate you being on here, and you know
Yeah, and I
being
appreciate you
inspirational.
inviting me on here. I really do appreciate that. Like I said, I was working on a lot of notes, but this week's been a busy week with the dry conditions and windy conditions, and then so my camera right now needed a break anyways.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. But I just wanted to, say that I really do appreciate you being on here, and it's been an honor. And I have so much love and respect for you and for what you've done. And I felt that, like, kind of built a connection with you and a friendship, so to speak.
Yeah,
And
I do
you
too,
touched me in such a way that my heart goes out to you, man.
and again, I told you when we first talked, my heart goes out to you and your family for what y'all went through. I know that was difficult. I listened to the story about what happened, and that that can bring some anger out of you. Even as somebody that wasn't even part of it, makes me angry that somebody can do something like that. But what y'all do, getting people on here, getting people that tell their stories about their sacrifice and what they've been through, I really think it's going to turn heads, and it's really going to help a lot of people that goes through this stuff. And I do appreciate y'all bringing me on, and I'll continue to tag you on all my photos and social medias that I do. And
we love seeing that stuff, man.
So, but yeah, other than that, I sit there and raise my chickens. I found some way of making money that helps pay for, give me that part of me, and I raise and sell chickens.
Still in the game too.
Yep. Still in the game. As long as the doctor lets me do it, I'm good.
Yeah. I think my cousin would be very proud that we're doing this, because, he was law enforcement and he was in the military, but he did really love and respect all first responders. And I've heard a lot of stories how he's impacted their lives. And, he just had a love for everybody, even the people that he had to encounter, whether they were getting arrested or whatever, that he impacted their lives because he was just such an honorable, honest, loving person. He didn't want to be in law enforcement to be the beat down, I want to catch criminals. He was more of the, I want to help people kind of get better.
And that's what we need more, is that community outreach. That's the thing, is that community outreach is really need to go. That's why I tell my wife, I really don't watch the news no more, just because it's depressing. You're not, to me, there's things people are not trying to help. Right. Like me, I have respect for all first responders. Don't get me wrong, I have respect for all first responders. They are some that live around that I do tend to have issues with, that's in law enforcement. But I can say this, that even if I do have an issue with something that they're doing, and I don't hide away, I confront it, I still get the respect from them, and I still give them the respect. Right. And funny story was, had a state trooper a couple of weeks ago gave my son a ticket because, if you, like you've seen on my pictures, the car that I have is homage to firefighters. And that aggravates me, because a lot of firefighters know the patch you get from your department is like a sentimental thing. And back in the day when you got your patch, it was like a offering. It was something to you. I went to go get a patch from the city, and I talked to my ex-assistant chief, and I was like, I need a patch to put in my car, because I'm trying to get patches to put on the roof from all different types of departments, because my car is a car show to an homage to firefighters. He's like, eBay. I was like, are you kidding me? He was like, no. So I went on eBay and looked, and I can get me any patch I want from eBay. And I'm like, where's the sentimental in that?
Right.
Like, that just took away the sentimental from everything.
It's got to come from the department, man.
Yeah, it has to come from the department. But yeah, I do appreciate it, and I hope y'all really go forward with what y'all doing. It's been a blast sitting there having conversation with y'all and sharing the stuff with you, and even showing you some of the stuff that went through. But I hope someone out there that's probably going through it, that's probably been through some of the things I've been through, will see that you can make it through. Get the help.
Yeah,
talk about it.
That's the hope of this whole podcast, is to help people overcome a lot of the traumas that they go through. And initially, admittedly, it didn't start out that way. It was just, I wanted to do something to honor my cousin, and then we started to come across these things, and then I realized that this is what my cousin would have wanted
Yeah. And
because
I
he
mean,
loved
that's
so
really
much.
good because,
So
again, like I said, I listened to the story about your cousin, and yeah, this is something he probably would have wanted. I could probably see him if he was still alive. He'd probably be sitting right beside you, having a
right,
drink with you, doing the same thing.
yeah, he was such an
So,
amazing, awesome person. I mean, he was so easy to get along with, and he was a funny story was I told my cousin, she didn't know about it. His sister, they were babysitting me. Him and my brother were babysitting me when I was younger, and I ended up stealing my cousin's bike in Michigan, and I went to the BMX track, and I was just having the time of my life, and I didn't care what was going on. I was just on that BMX track doing the jumps and all the turns, and they found me, and my brother was really going to kick my butt because he was mad. And my cousin was like, "No, let me handle it." And he was probably about 13 at the time. And he grabbed me and he says, "Were you having fun?" I was like, "Yeah, it was great." And he goes, "I'm not really mad that you took my bike, but we were upset that you didn't tell us where you were going because we were worried. We
yeah.
didn't know where you were." That's the kind
hmm
of person he was, even at 13 years old.
And that's just like with me, with my kids, it's funny because, like, our oldest son, he was on a bike and he wanted to learn this.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here in my office just fiddling around because I got bearded dragons behind here. I got chickens and baby chicks and animals,
Mhm.
and so I'm just kind of fiddling around in the office, and the neighbor comes up and goes, "Aaron fell off his bike." Okay, and I'm not freaking out. I'm not. Of course, the wife, she's freaking out, which is always funny because every time any of my kids get hurt, they always call me. They always tell them, "Don't call mama, call daddy," because she freaks out. But I'm like, all right, where's he at? He's down the road. So I start walking down there, and then one of her friends comes up and goes, he broke his arms.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, okay, how bad? Like, y'all think they broke, or is there a bone sticking out? Like, you know, I need to know these. Changes situations. And she's like, I don't know. He's just sitting there. I said, well, I don't hear you screaming. So is he unconscious? No, he's sitting up. Okay. I get down there and he is sitting there like this with his wrist back like this. So he's
Oh,
like
9 degrees.
this. Oh, yeah. And he's
Okay.
got a major road rash across his face. He's
Uh,
got him a concussion. And I'm walking down there. I'm not running. I'm not freaking out. I'm walking. And I had this old neighbor. Your son's hurt down there. I know. I'm going. Well, why ain't you running? Because he'll be there when I get there. Like me running up and freaking out my son. Me freaking out would freak him out. Mm-mm.
right. It's not going to do any good.
No, it's going to be fine. So we get him loaded up into the truck and get him to the hospital. Again, I've seen broken bones. I've seen them reset them. My wife has not. And this is the most hilarious thing I have ever seen. By the time she got to the hospital, they've already got him kind of unsedated. He keeps coming out of sedations. Every time they set the wrist, he comes out and screams at the doctor, which scares the crap out of the doctor, which I'm dying in the ER on this one. Finally, the doctor goes, hit him with everything, and they like put him out at the end when they resetted the second one. Well, when they went to go reset the second one, the wife walks in.
Oh,
and she watches them reset his wrist, and he comes out screaming, and they hit him again and knock him back out. I'm dying because the doctor done got the crap scare out of him. The nurses done got the crap scare out of him. I'm laughing my butt off because, again, I use humor in bad situations.
Right.
I turn and look, and my wife is white as a ghost. So I grab her, and I'm like, I said, you got to get out of here. I said, I've already got one in the hospital. I don't need two. Get out.
Yeah. Get
I
out.
read her out because of it. But I looked at him when he come home. He's in a cast like this, like the football goal. And I looked at him. I said, did you learn your lesson? He goes, yep. I said, what 2 lessons did you learn? He goes, 1, make sure my feet are where they need to be. I'm like, okay. And what's your other lesson you learned? Wear a helmet. I said, good. I said, as long as you learned your lesson, you're good.
That's funny.
So we would have things like that happen, like, with
Right.
him flipping his car and he's all mad about the car. I'm like, look, it's property. As long as you're okay.
Yeah.
I can replace the car. I can't replace you. So,
Exactly. Can't replace life.
yeah, but now we pick at him all the time. We're like, oh, it's raining. You sure you're going to be able to drive?
I slow.
So, but I do appreciate it. I ain't trying to talk your ear off all day long. Because, like I said, I could tell you some stories that I've been through. And
Yeah, I can imagine we can go through many hours of this stuff.
oh, yes. Like I said, there's been some crazy ones. I've had injections. I've even had a lady one time that unfortunately got her fixed by calling 911 to have firefighters show up. I walked in that place, looked what she was doing, turned around, told my chief, I said, nope, she's yours. I ain't dealing with that.
Yeah,
So,
we can talk about stories all day. I definitely really appreciate you being on here, man. It's been an honor. I had a good time. It's been kind of like an emotional roller coaster. And
yeah, it has been
with you.
It's been, but again, I'm back where I like to be. I'm around the stuff I like to be around, and I got my family that backs me up and supports me for what I do, and so that's all I can ask for now.
That's all you need, man. Yeah, that's
support. Yes, sir.
We'll be here for you. If you ever want to talk, just hit us up. If you want my number, I'll give you my number. Talk to me anytime. Text me or whatever.
Will do. And if you ever want to just have a chit chat and talk about some crazy things, we will. Just let me know.
Absolutely.
And then like I said,
I'll couple of drinks.
Yep. And whenever I don't get mine stolen.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I was going to put it out there, if anybody ever wants to see kind of what I do, I do have Instagram that a lot of my stories are on. It's Crane, CRANE _ photos at 2005. That's on Instagram. A lot of my short videos are on my TikTok. That's where a lot of times, like my videos of like my shorts and of my son, and I have to pull it up because I can't always remember my names. And of course, a lot of pictures of my son's videos because he's got into videography of doing car videos, and he does mine for my car. But it's at Anthony Crane 813 on TikTok, and that's where a lot of my quick videos go. That's usually where I send anything that happens out within the first 15 minutes of the call, and then I kind of go more in detail on Instagram with the story behind what they dealt with, what they used. If there's an outcome, a great outcome out of it, I'm definitely going to be talking about that.
Okay.
I really don't do like car wrecks, anything like that, just for the fact that I try to keep people's personal lives out of
Right.
it because they didn't ask to be in those situations. So it's not my place to show it. I don't show any dead bodies. I don't show any death to destruct any death or anything like that. And in
Nobody.
fact, if there's a death at like a house fire or something, in fact, I got one posted. Most of my photos are of the firefighters in the trucks.
Okay.
And it just says, my heart goes out to the family. And, if anybody looks on there and wants to help any of the families they see me post, just go to
Okay.
your local Salvation Army in your area. Not even just here, just in your area. Go to your local Salvation Army. Ask them, if there's a family that's lost clothes or their home or something like that, food. Salvation Army does a great job. They'll get what people need and help getting them there. If you want to donate money to get somebody an apartment that lost their house, go to the Salvation Army. They will get that to them.
Now, well, what was your website again that you talk about with your pictures? Go ahead and repeat that.
Okay, so with my Instagram, it is Crane. It's CRANE, and it's the underscore line photos at 2005. And then my TikTok is at Anthony Crane 813. You'll know it's there because my nickname on there is Daddy Dragon 05 or
Yeah,
005.
I'm familiar with that Daddy Dragon.
So
that dragon.
yeah, that's I came up with the name because I used to be called Baby Shark because I had a dance on the side of the road half naked for my wife one time to that song.
Yeah.
But that's another one of those crazy stories.
Story.
Yeah, but I moved it to Daddy Dragon just because, I do believe I fought the dragon. I faced it, lived through it, and now I document, and that's what I do. So anybody who wants to go in there, check them out. By all means, go ahead. I don't ask for nothing in return, but hey, I'll put out there if anybody wants to. I'll email you my mailing address. If anybody wants to, they can get a hold of you and send me patches so I can add it to my car.
All right.
That's the only thing I want. I want patches so I can fill up the roof of my car.
I know we're working on patches ourselves, so we're trying to get more patches. So
yeah, you let me know, and I'll gladly get one from you, and I'll put it right up there in the center.
All right, buddy. Oh, with that being said, I think we're gonna go ahead and get off of here. And God bless you for everything you've done, man. You've shown so much tenacity and honor and integrity, and you just inspired me and everybody I think that's gonna listen to this. And you're just an amazing, amazing gentleman. I love you, man.
I appreciate it. I really do.
Awesome.
I really appreciate it, and I'm glad someone out there like you is doing what you're doing and getting it out there for people to hear it and understand, the sacrifice and the situation people goes through. It's hard, but a lot of time we don't ask, we don't hesitate to do it. There's people out there that does it because they love to do it. So, you see these people, don't be mean. Don't say nothing wrong.
Right.
Tell them thank you.
Thank you for your service.
You see a firefighter at the grocery store getting food. Don't get mad because he's out there getting groceries. Tell him thank you because you never know. He might be going to a call in 30 minutes having to pull somebody out. Yeah. And I'm going to have to live with that. So just a good thank you to somebody.
A building alive that day. You never know.
Yep. And they're not going to ask you for it. That's the thing. That's one thing I've learned and I always love. They're not going to ask for the things. They don't care about that. But as citizens, just walk up to them and tell them thank you.
Yeah.
But hey, man, I appreciate what you do. Thanks.
That's a lesson that every citizen in this country should learn is thank your first responders for what they do.
Oh yeah, because they
Don't be
do deal with a
conceited.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they deal with a lot.
They
So,
may sign up for this work, but they do us an honor and a duty
hmm
that people don't realize. And they sacrifice so much that
oh
people
yeah,
just overlook.
they really do. And being part of that group and seeing the ones that we've lost, like I said, everybody knows September 11 to 343 up there, but here just around us, we've had the Charleston 9 pass away during
Mhm.
Hurricane Helene. We were out helping people get untrapped out that, and unfortunately had 2 firefighters killed when a tree fell on the fire truck just one county over from us.
That's sad.
So, these men and women put themselves in these situations to get out there to help somebody. A
That's sad.
simple thank you, goes a long way when they know there's gratitude coming from the community when we don't really ask for it.
Right.
Because again, it's not for the gratitude. It's not for the, praise. Because at the end of the day, most of it, we're proud of what we've done.
Thank you for joining us on 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. Every story we share is a tribute to the courage and resilience of first responders and their families. If this episode impacted, encouraged, or inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who supports first responders. Follow us on all social media platforms at 8158 Podcast for updates. 8158 Stories of Sacrifice is a team effort. Rico brings the stories to life through casting, writing, original music, and editing. Brianne Shipley as production manager, handling booking, social media, graphics, promotion, marketing, website management, and logo design. Please visit our website at 8158podcast.com. For questions, collaborations, or to share your story, our email address is contactus@8158podcast.com. Until next time, let's continue to honor the legacies and remember the sacrifices of those who serve, every brave man and woman on the front lines, protecting and defending us all. This is Rico signing off and honoring 8158.